Today is Friday, September the 25th. I am your host, Casey Phoenix, and this is my daily thought. And as some of you may already know, my daily thought is a supplement to the Keeping It Real with KC show, which is a weekend show. And this weekend, I will be doing only one episode this weekend. I mentioned that yesterday. I'm only doing one episode. I'm taking it a little bit easy this weekend on the Keeping It Real with KC show. But it will be a wacky news weekend. So I plan to find the wackiest news article that I can to make my one episode count. So plan on doing that. Usual housekeeping, KIRWKC.com, main podcasting platform. Also, if you are watching this on Daily Motion or YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. That way you will know when I upload a new episode. And if you're watching on YouTube, after you hit the subscribe button, don't forget to hit the notification bell. Instagram, Twitter, KIRWKC, Facebook.com/KIRWKC. All right, got that stuff out the way. Today has been pretty good. And I left my water on the table. But hopefully, every time I jinx it, when I say I don't plan for the episode to be that long, then the episode ends up being almost 30 minutes. I'm going to have to make it through this episode without my water because I don't want to have to get up and walk across the room and I can't stop recording. So, yeah. But today, as I was saying, has been pretty good. Actually, better. Today has been one of my best days in a while. Energy-wise, I've had a ridiculous amount of energy today, and that's a good thing, and I'm thankful for that. Because when you go through certain days without having much energy, and then you have this sudden burst of energy, and it's like, okay, wait a minute, where did this come from? What's happening? What's going on? So, yeah, it's really a great feeling. I think it's because I've added garlic to my diet, which I do a clove of garlic now at lunchtime and then 2 cloves of garlic at dinner, which is also more than likely, along with a lot of prayers and everything else and good vibes, helping me with my sinus issues too, because there has been significant improvement in that area since I've been doing the garlic. So I'm glad I did some research and found some things, and that was one of the things suggested, and it's working. But today's been good, and now it's the weekend, and it's going to be so weird when Sunday gets here if I live to see it, where I won't know when I have an official day off where I'm not doing anything, where I'm not working my regular job, where I'm not working on this channel or my other channel or other little side things. It's just so weird where I don't know what to do with myself, and I feel guilty when I'm not doing something that I would consider productive. It's different when where I watch a good bit of TV, but I do it while I'm eating usually. Usually when I'm eating lunch, I'll watch anime, like I'm watching a lot of Fairy Tail right now. For those of you who are into anime, you know Fairy Tail, because I never finished some of the episodes, so I'm catching up now, because I have bought like a whole bunch of seasons. So I've been doing that. And I'm also watching Revenge. Again, I love that TV series. That is an anime, that's a regular TV series. It was on for 4 seasons. If you haven't seen Revenge, check out the show. It's amazing. Madeline Stowe is in it, and the girl Emily, I forgot what her last name is, but also she was in the Avengers. Everyone kept on calling her Captain America's girlfriend or whatever. She worked at S.H.I.E.L.D. So that she's actually the main character of Revenge, and I love Revenge. I could watch it all the time, and I'm watching it again this year. But I've been watching that lately on my lunch break, and at night when I eat, usually it takes me about an hour to 2 hours to eat. So I'm watching shows during that process, and by the time I finish eating, then it's time for me to go to bed. And then wake up in the morning and do my little rinse and repeat again. So yeah. When I have a day where I'm not doing anything, I feel like, oh my goodness, I need to do something. I need to do something productive. I need to do something. Why am I just sitting here? Why am I just letting time slip away from me? So I'm mentally preparing myself for Sunday. All right, enough small talk. Let me go ahead and get to what my daily thought is about, which my daily thought is self-esteem, loving yourself, and ego. Ooh, some water would be good right now. All right, pull it together. Once upon a time, and I might have told the story before, a long time ago, I was at school, in middle school. I was out to add a little bit more, to add a little bit more color to the painting that I'm creating, the drawing and everything, to make it pop a little bit more. I'll add some more detail. All right. So in my middle school that I went to, down below the school, there were several steps where the bus stop was at, where the buses would come and pick up everyone. It was also the area where recess would happen during lunchtime. So you have the school up top, and then you have the stairs, and then it leads down to the bus stop. Everyone would usually go out to that area during recess to play. So you have the school, you have the area for the bus stop. Right in front of that area is the school gym and everything. And below that, down another hill, is the football field and the track area as well. But people didn't really usually go down there during recess. It was mostly in where the buses come in at to pick everyone up. Well, during lunch, one day, I was outside, and there were people, these guys who knew me, but I didn't really deal with them because I pretty much kept to myself. I didn't, oh, my head's itching, I can't wait to cut it this weekend. Whew, for those seeing me scratch my head on camera. But I didn't really deal with that many people. A lot of people knew me because I had a pretty outgoing personality in school, because I guess class clown to a certain degree, but I didn't really socialize with a whole bunch of people. I only hung out with just a few people. Well, anyways, these guys came up to me at lunchtime because I was out. I don't recall what I was doing, but I was out on the playground, and then all of them came up in a circle around me and just randomly started asking me, do you want to fight me? And I'm like, no. And then after I said no to one, then the other one would ask, do you want to fight me? And it was like probably about 8 or 9 guys all asking me this. And I'm like, no. Because I'm like, where is this coming from? And it was made clear that they didn't like me. For whatever reason, they didn't like me. All right. So, fast forward later that evening, I'm working on my homework. And my mother was in the kitchen And my dad, he was somewhere in the house. I forgot where my dad was at. I don't recall. But my mother was in the kitchen because usually when I was doing my homework, she was close by to, for one, to make sure that I'm doing it. For two, if I had a question, I could go ahead and ask her whatever I need to ask her. And three, to make sure I was doing it. So that was why she was hovering around and stuff. And she was helping me with something. And all of a sudden, I just started crying. Just started bawling. Started crying. And my mother's like, "What is wrong with you?" And I told her about what happened at school. I'm like, "They don't like me." And I was like, "I didn't do anything to them." And she's like, "Why do you care who likes you?" And I'm like, "But I didn't do anything to them. I want them to like me. I didn't do anything." And she's like, "It doesn't matter if they like you." And then she went on to say, taking it a step further, she's like, "Half the people at my job don't like me. Do you think I care?" And I was like, "Well, okay." And she told me that that was the first step in building my self-esteem, to not care what others think about me. The next step was when I got to high school. She sent me to a character building program, which was also a modeling agency, which is why I got to go to New York. I got to do other things and yada, 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 all that stuff. Okay. So in that character building program, it was also about building self-confidence and everything else, which was very cool. And I would say I picked up more self-esteem from that. I was learning how to love myself through that program and through that experience. Because learning how to walk, because when people walk, if you ever pay attention to this, when people walk, and for those of you who are listening to the podcast, you won't be able to see this, but for those who are watching the show, you'll see this. When people walk, people don't walk with one foot in front of the other. They usually walk with their feet like this, instead of like this, walking in a straight line with one foot straight in front of the other. People usually walk like ducks when they walk. And that was one thing when I was going through my training and all of that stuff, where it's like when I walk, if you pay attention to my feet, I don't walk with my feet pointed out like a duck. I walk with one foot in front of the other if you just look at my feet when I'm walking. And I've had people stop me. I remember when I lived in Colombia a long time ago, and this girl I worked with, she had said to me, she was like, "When you walk, you just walk like nobody is above you." And I was like, "Well, I'm walking." She's like, "Well, yeah," she's just like, "You have an air about you when you walk." And then one time when I was living in Miami and I was walking, I had someone scream out of their window saying, "You better walk." And stuff. And I think of those moments because when I walk with confidence. Now, will I put my head down at times? Yeah, if I don't feel like being bothered or whatever, or if I'm daydreaming about something. But usually for the most part, when I'm walking somewhere, my head is up. I love myself. I have self-esteem. And over the years, loving myself and having self-esteem, it builds an ego. The ego gets built when things are reinforced. Where if you do something and then you find out that was the right decision, decisions, hint, hint, for those who didn't listen to yesterday's daily thought. When you make right decisions, when you do the right thing, when you're on the move and you're getting that internal feedback, you don't necessarily have to get feedback from other people because, again, it's not about what other people think, which is what I'm focusing on this episode, because I've talked about self-esteem before. I've talked about ego before. I've talked about loving yourself and how amazing you are in your own right, just being here on earth, of the odds that you are the one that made it here, and that in itself makes you amazing. However, I haven't done an episode specifically on self-esteem. I haven't done it. And I looked and I was like, I haven't done episodes like I talked about self-esteem. I talked about loving yourself. I talk about ego, but I've never really done it. And that's why I was like, okay, I need to make sure I dedicate a daily thought or Keeping It Real with KC episode to it, one or the other. And for my daily thought, that's why I'm focusing on this right now. When it comes to self-esteem, you are the only one who can control it. It's all you. I remember one time Cat Williams was talking about that. He was talking about it's called self-esteem. Yourself. So you're the only one who can control it. Don't let what others think of you bring the opinion of yourself down. One cool thing I will say about humans, even though I still don't consider myself a people person, and I make that clear. But one cool thing I will say about humans is usually they can evolve. When presented with the right tools, they are able to evolve. If there is something in your life where you may not meet the standard, the requirement, or whatever, it isn't the end of the world, because you can pull upon tools to upgrade yourself so you can evolve above and ascend to more, to something better. Just like, because this is on my mind, I think I mentioned this before, because I'm thinking of the gym outside at my middle school. When I tried out for the basketball team, well, I told you about that. I tried out, I didn't make it. Actually came in last, if I'm not mistaken. But I tried it. Now, I could have practiced, done more, did more, and then tried out again next year and possibly made it. I could have put in the work and did that, but I didn't have a love of basketball like that. I just wanted to try out to just try it. You know, it doesn't hurt just to see what happens sometimes. And that's what I'm saying to you. If you're in a dark place, don't let that dark place affect your self-esteem, because you can always get out. Tools will always be available to you in one form or another, whether you see them or not, to get out. So don't let that affect your self-esteem. Don't let what someone says about you, what someone thinks about you, what bad things happen about you, stop you from loving yourself. Don't let that stop you. People always have attributes. Just like I remember when I went to Sunday school. I used to go to Sunday school. One thing about me when I was growing up with my parents, I'm not in church. I haven't been to church in probably a decade, give or take. Because I think the last time I went to church was with one of my former friends. And I went with her to the Christmas Mass or the New Year's Mass or something. It was something like that. But it was, okay, so we're in 2020. So yeah, in 2010, December 2010 was the last time. Yeah, that was the last time I was in church, December 2010. All right. So I almost lost my train of thought. Thank you, universe, for bringing it back to me. So that's the last time I was in church. So I'm not in church all the time. But when I was in church all the time when I was younger, for Sunday school and stuff, one thing they brought up was that the Bible says you'll be given gifts. Like everyone is born with at least one gift, one talent, one attribute, whatever. And if you use that gift, the universe or God or whatever you want to call it this week will give you more gifts. It is starting to get warm in here because I'm boiling this chicken, and I do not know why this air conditioner isn't doing it right now. My underarms are starting to sweat, and I can't take my shirt off on camera because that's just going to be awkward for everybody. But anyways, you're given a gift, and if you use that gift, you will receive more gifts and talents of things that you're able to do and use. That's what I say about attributes. And with attributes, it can be physical features, it can be actual talents, creative talents, or whatever. If you recognize what you have received, if you give thanks for what you have received, because there is at least one thing you've received. There's at least one attribute, even if it's on physical stuff. I don't care what people look like. And when it comes to beauty, it's all subjective anyway. Because for me, I'll give you an example. For the type of guys that are like my kryptonite, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned this before. My kryptonite is dark-skinned black men. I love dark skin. Dark-skinned black men and Asian men. That's my kryptonite. But for some people, that dark skin isn't their thing. Or Asian men it's not their thing. But for others like me, it is. And what I'm saying is, so for a person who may be dark-skinned, you have someone like me who's like, ooh, licking my lips, chocolate. And then the other person may see it differently. But the dark-skinned person, they shouldn't, because that's another thing I noticed too, when when it deals with skin color. Some dark-skinned people don't like being dark-skinned. And I'm like, why? Dark skin is so beautiful. But to me, that's an attribute that you should be thankful for. It's beautiful. You have beautiful skin. And even if it's not dark skin, even if it's my color, I've been called red bone, even though I just think I'm just regular black, brownish, whatever you want to call it. But if you have beautiful skin, that's an attribute. Be thankful for it. That's one thing you can build your self-esteem off of. Now, when it comes to physical attributes, don't wrap all of your self-esteem and all of your ego and all of your self-love within a physical attribute, because with age comes change. So let me make that clear. But everyone has attributes. If you're really good at math, That's an attribute. Be thankful for it. Be like, wow, I'm really good at math. Love that you're really good at math. That's something that can build your self-esteem, because it's like, oh, someone can throw numbers at me, I can knock it right on out. I can do it. If you're a really good driver, you know how to handle a car. Because trust me, I live in Los Angeles. Some of these people here can't drive to save their lives. Real talk. So, yeah, if you're a really good driver, that's an attribute. That's something that you can add to the self-esteem column. If you are good with children, like I told you, the girl I call my little sister, she's really good with children. That's an attribute. That could be added to her self-esteem column. Not everyone is good with kids. They just aren't. They don't have that innate ability to know what a kid needs or what a child needs. But for her, it just comes naturally to her. She just has that very good maternal instinct. That is something that could be put in building her self-esteem, that she's good with children. Because again, not everyone's good with children. You have to find what your attribute, what your gift is, and build off of that. And you will start to notice other things from time to time as you go on throughout life. And you have to appreciate those things when you have them. And as you appreciate those things, you appreciate yourself, and your ego will grow and be strong. So when you hear such and such doesn't like you, such and such is saying this about you, such and such thinks that you aren't whatever, or just pick whatever. It's just going to bounce off of you because you already have, your ego is already good. Now, of course, every single person, myself included, when we do things in life, there's always going to be that little voice whispering in our ear saying, well, do you really think you can do that? Do you think it's possible? You know, last time you tried something, it didn't work out. You sure you want to try this again? Are you sure you want to approach him to ask for his number? Are you sure you want to approach her to ask for her number? Are you sure that you want to try cooking for that many people? You know you're not that great of a cook. You've never cooked for this many people before. Are you sure you want to do that? There will always be a little voice to come in to make you doubt yourself a little bit. But again, that's where self-esteem, loving yourself, and ego come in to say to that little voice, do you know who I am? Clearly, you don't know who I am. That's why you have to build up your self-esteem. When someone says something, like I mentioned before, like if something is brought to you, oh, well, you know such and such doesn't like you. You're thinking, ego, loving yourself, self-esteem, already in your head is like, this person just told me such and such doesn't like me. Do they really think I give a damn? Do they really think I care? Obviously, they don't know who I am. I remember with Rick James, it's that moment. And I'm pretty sure if those who know who Rick James is, they know what moment I'm talking about. That is self-esteem, loving yourself, and ego. Where the woman backstage saying, didn't know who he was, like, I'm Rick. That is self-esteem, loving yourself, and ego. And that is the attitude you have to have at times. I'm not saying overdo it, even though sometimes I mean, people do. So, it's all about knowing who you are. But in order to know who you are, you have to figure out what your attributes are first. You have to figure out what are the things that you do well. What are you good at? What gifts have the universe given to you? What appreciation can you send out to the universe for the gifts that have been bestowed upon you? Because you have gifts, you have attributes, you have many things that can contribute to building your self-esteem. No matter how low you think you may have sunk, no matter how many times you think you may have failed, no matter how many people you may think are here dislike you, the universe has given you attributes and talents and resources and tools to build your self-esteem and to help you learn to love yourself and build your ego. It is all there. And again, self-esteem, it's all on you. No one else is responsible for your self-esteem. You don't have to beg anyone to recognize your value. If anything, if someone doesn't recognize your value, that's when you push the table away. You get up from the table and leave. Because it's called valuing yourself. Just like when you're in a relationship. If someone doesn't value you in the relationship, you have the option to get up from the table and leave. And you can leave without an explanation. Because as I said a few days ago in my other daily thought, an explanation is a courtesy, not a requirement. And once you get to that point where you have a solid self-esteem, where you constantly love yourself, where you have a nice ego, then you will always be in a good space mentally, where you don't ever have to be validated for anyone. Because as I said in my other daily thought, validation is for parking, not for people. You don't need anyone to validate you. You being here is good enough. It is validation within itself based on the odds that you had to overcome just to make it into being alive today. But throughout your life, you have to learn how to build your self-esteem. You have to learn how to love yourself. You have to learn how to expand your ego. Having an ego is not a bad thing. Having an ego is appropriate to get you through life where you don't have to worry about what others think. Because when it's all said and done, as I said before, what people think about you is none of your business. And even when you do find out what they think about you, a solid ego is not going to care. They will not care. They will move on. Far as a solid ego, once they hear it's like that person doesn't exist. I'll give you an example because she has out a book now. Mariah Carey. Or her book is about to come out, I believe. Mariah Carey was asked about someone. Mariah Carey said her infamous, "I don't know her." And they were like, "Wait, what?" Mariah Carey's like, "I don't know her." And when she was years later, when she was on Andy Cohen's show, and Andy Cohen brought it up again, Mariah Carey's like, "I still don't know her." That is ego. That is self-esteem. That is loving yourself. She's like, "I'm not going to bother with that person." And I love both of them because I know who she was talking about, obviously. But in Also, that person that she was talking about, that individual has an ego too, as that individual should, because that individual's a Leo, and Leos are known to have egos. But it's all about appreciating who you are. When you learn how to appreciate who you are, and not just appreciate who you are, appreciate that you have the potential to evolve. You're not stuck in something forever. Again, it's not meant for people to be trapped in something in perpetuity. It just isn't. It's not meant for you to be in pain in perpetuity. It's not meant for you to be struggling in perpetuity. It's just not meant. The universe doesn't work like that. It just doesn't. You'll have ups and downs, ups and downs. You might have some more ups than downs. You might have some more downs than ups. But it's never going to be one constant thing of bad. And regardless of where you're at, you have to appreciate that you will have the tools, or you have the tools to evolve and move up a little bit more and do that. But you can't focus on the tools or evolving if you're focused on what other people think about you. You can't focus on what is a benefit to you, what the universe is trying to send to you, if you're too busy focused on what other people think about you. I'll give you another example. And see, I did not know. Wow, I'm at 36 minutes. Okay, I'm really going in today. I'll give you another example. I'm going to use this as a final example. One of my relatives got married. It's 1, 2. How many kids? 1, 2, 3. Why do I feel like yeah, 3. I believe 3 kids. I want to say 4, but 3. All right. One of my relatives got married a long time ago. She had 3 kids. I could have thought she had 4 kids. But she had 3 kids. She met my other relative, my blood relative, and they got married. And then they came into the family. People had stuff to say when they got married. Because it's like, why are you marrying a woman with 3 kids? I could have thought it was 4. I'm going to have to revisit that. Because I'm pretty sure it was 4 kids. It's a shame that I don't know all of my relatives' stuff. But I digress. Anyways, a lot of people had stuff to say. Long story short, they ended up staying married until she died a few years ago. So they stayed married for decades. And it worked out. To be a woman with 3 kids, to even open her heart up to a man, that takes self-esteem. Because some women who may have 3 kids and are single are like, oh my God, a man's not going to want me, da-da-da-da, this, whatever. And then a man, he had to have self-esteem because a man will already know if he's about to date a woman and then marry a woman on top of it. It's like, there has to be self-esteem there. He has to love himself. He has to have an ego. Because when he goes into that, he already knows people are going to talk saying, wow, he married a woman with 3 kids. But both parties had self-esteem. They loved themselves. They had egos. They didn't worry about what everyone else was going to say. They got married. And had they not had self-esteem, had they listened to all of the people who had something to say, whether it was directly to them or indirectly about them, then one of my other relatives, which was a child as a result of the marriage, would not be in existence today. But it took self-esteem, loving themselves, and ego being solid on all of that to even consider having that relationship, to even consider having that marriage. That is an example, way better example, of self-esteem, loving yourself, and ego. They didn't worry about what anybody had to say. They recognized that there was love there, that the universe gave them love. And then later on, it gave them another child. So focus on building your self-esteem and loving yourself more and expanding your ego. And if people can't appreciate you for having high self-esteem, for loving yourself and having a decent sized ego, oh well, they'll get over it. Life goes on. The universe doesn't stop for anybody. If they can't appreciate you after you've gained that self-confidence, you gained that self-worth, then that's an issue within them. They might need to work on their self-esteem. They might need to work on loving themselves. They might need to work on their ego. Because people with egos, loving themselves, in high self-esteem, they're not offended or thrown off by other people who have high self-esteem, love themselves, and have a decent sized ego. They're not thrown off by that. And that's all I have. I haven't done a show this long in a minute. Wow. Okay. So I appreciate everyone who stayed throughout the entirety of my daily thought. Thank you to everyone who's been liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, all that other jazz. I have some stuff coming like I mentioned yesterday. Also, and that might be why I have a lot of energy too. And I thank the universe for that. But that might be because I can't tell you until I've done it. I can't tell you until I've done it. But I'm looking forward to it. KIRWKC.com, main podcasting platform. Until next time, which will hopefully be this weekend with the Wacky News Weekend for the Keeping It Real with KC show. Until next time, I love all of you sincerely and appreciate all of you sincerely. Be blessed.